This is 1020, the sensational new pocket billiards game. And here to bring you the action is television's pioneer sportscaster, Joe Wilson.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, friends. How are you? Welcome once again to 1020. Last week, you will recall, we had the thrilling match in which Mr. Crane defeated Mr. Tozer 25-24, and tonight we continue the career of Mr. Crane. But first, if you would like a rule book on our game 1020, you may have it by sending 35 cents to 1020, Post Office Box 3486, 3486, Merchandise Mart Station, Chicago, Illinois. 35 cents to that address and the book is yours. And now for the career of our defending champion, three-time world's champion from Rochester, New York, Mr. Irving Crane. Mr. Crane, will you step in? How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Have you recovered from the excitement yet?
Well, just about, yeah.
Just about. His challenger is an exceptional player in that he never entered tournament competition until he was 41 years of age. When he came out of World War II, he decided to try it. He made the national tournament by 1950, the world tournament by 1952. This amazing player comes from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. His name, Mr. Willis Covington. Come in, Covey. How are you? Fine. Wonderful to see you. Now, you gentlemen understand that you will be playing the new television pocket billiards game 1020. So called because you are limited to a run of 10 balls in any half inning except the final inning. There, if you can run 10, you have the option of 20 more for a total of 30. The winner, as Mr. Crane can attest, gets $300, the loser $200, and the winner, in addition, for every point he can score over 40, gets $10 a point. High game for the 13 weeks. It carries $1,000. It is presently held by Mr. Don Tozer with the score you see right there, 37. For a perfect game of 100 points, we give you $5,000, and you keep coming back until you lose. Now, because this is television with the time factor involved, if this game is not won at the end of regulation time, the score reverts to the last complete inning. Do you agree to play under these conditions? Mr. Covington, Mr. Crane? Okay, good luck and good shooting to both of you. I'm going to ask you to step over there under the direction of our official referee, Mr. Frank Oliver. We will have the action for you in just one moment. And now the game itself. Mr. Crane to the table. Mr. Covington, as you saw, won the lag, elected to force Mr. Crane to break. He could have elected to break himself, but in most instances they will force their opponent to break. Mr. Crane must drive 2 balls to the rail or suffer a scratch and a loss of 2 points. This is a very tricky portion of the game. But not if you do it that way. And look at the way that 2 ball, or the 1 ball rather, came back into the rack and the 2 ball as well. That is very nearly a rack as it was before he touched it. Extremely well done. Now the game, as far as the innings are concerned, starts with Mr. Covington at the table. This is the first half of the first inning. He has no shot. He is going to have to play safety. He must drive a ball to the rail or drive his cue ball off an object ball to the rail. Boy, this is going to be a good one if he makes it. If he doesn't, scratch. And he didn't. Beautiful safety. One of the greatest safeties I have ever seen. Beautiful safety. And so the score at the end of the first half of the first inning, Mr. Covington nothing, Mr. Crane at the table. Mr. Covington with a safety against him. Mr. Crane with nothing against him may play a safety, scratch, or shoot out. He must play a safety. He has nothing. Another beautiful safety, but he opened up that table a little bit.
Played at nothing for Mr. Crane.
And he counts nothing for the half inning. The score at the end of one even inning of play, Mr. Covington nothing, Mr. Crane nothing, each man with a safety against him on the board. Mr. Covington, with 15 on the table, may run
9 ball on the
10.
corner pocket.
9 ball, his object. And there is the first point of the game. Mr. Covington now has his board wiped clear, shooting out as he did.
14 ball.
And that table is pretty well opened. 2-0 on the run of 2. See how he has drawn behind the 5 ball. He also has a play over here
15 ball.
on the 15. 3 3-0 on the run of 3, and now watch the draw and follow English. This is a job of shot making first, position
5 ball.
second. Follow on this. And it is 4-0. Beautiful follow. See where he's coming. It is 4-0 on the run of 4.
13 ball.
Yes, 5 of them loose.
5.
All right, it is 5-0
1
on
ball.
the run of 5. Beautiful position.
6.
6-0 on the run of 6. 4 more points to go. 2 loose on the table. He won't want to open up that rack unless he has to. I don't think. Mr. Covington, who is a good shot maker and a solid player.
11 ball. 7.
7-0 on the run of 7. 3 to go. 2 are loose. And he doesn't want to leave him anything. I suppose he'll just play off
8
9.
ball in the side pocket.
8-0 on the run of 8. He may just elect to go for 9 and then try
Playing for 2 for the inning.
to lock up Mr. Crane. What they call in the trade, run and then duck. The
2
bridge.
ball.
Watch the skill with this. All right. It's 9-0 on the run of 9. He has 1 more point. Do you suppose he's going
12
to
ball.
go?
Combination off of the 7 ball in the corner pocket.
This may open him up. No, sir! What a beautiful, beautiful shot. Look at the way he is frozen into that rack. He counts 10 for the half inning, and the score at the end of the first half of the second inning is Mr. Covington 10, Mr. Crane nothing, and that is what Mr. Crane with a scratch, with a safety against him, may elect to scratch or shoot out. That's one of the greatest jobs of playing safety I have seen, not once but twice by Mr. Covington. Look at Mr. Crane. What would you do in this situation? 5 on there. Look at there. The white one is the cue ball. And how would you make a shot out of that? And they tell you in this game, never make a shot. In other words, don't try to find one that isn't there. But he's already played a safety. He can play a scratch with just a loss of a point. He's going to try the... Well, you say he's world champion 3 times. Let him find something. And that's apparently what Mr. Covington thought, too. Gee, those were 2 of the greatest bits of safety play I have ever seen. And, of course, the man who can play safety and do it well here.
4 ball in the upper corner
4
pocket.
in the corner. And makes it! And makes his point! That magnificent shooting! All right, it is 10-1 on the point. And he's opened him up. He's almost frozen. Oh, and locks up
1 for Mr. Crane.
in the pocket. Gee, that was a tough shot. He counts 1 for the half inning, and the score at the end of 2 even innings of play is Mr. Covington 10, Mr. Crane 1. Both men with neither safety nor scratch against him. Mr. Covington with 4 on the table. He must go through the rack. There's his point. It is, if he doesn't scratch, but he does. He does. He loses the point. He loses another for the scratch. And the score now, at the end of the first half of the third inning, is Mr. Covington now 9. It will show there in a moment. Mr. Crane 1. Mr. Crane at the table with 4 on. The ball scratched, spotted on the foot spot. He shoots from within the head string. All right, has his point. And it is 10-2 on the point. Now to leave himself a break shot. Gee, what a beautiful shot. Beautiful shot. 10-3 on the run of 2. 10 ball going to be his break shot. He must get that cue ball over to it. Oh, no, sir. Locked up in that same corner. He counts 2 for the half inning, and the score at the end of 3 even innings of play, Mr. Covington 9, Mr. Crane 3.
6 ball.
Mr. Covington's break ball, the 10 ball. He must get back to it. All right, for his point, it is 11, or rather 10 to 3 on the point. He is back in position on that 10 ball, and he'll also be in a position to go to that rack. Here's a man who never entered this type of competition until he was 14 years old, playing a 3-time world champion and making him like it. All right, he opened him up a little bit. It is 11 to 3 on the run of 2. If he can run his 10 points here again, he can go ahead by 16 points. Boy, he's going to be tough. Asking for the bridge from Mr. Oliver.
3 ball in the corner pocket.
Boy, this is going to be a fine cut on that 3 ball. All right. 12 to 3 on the run of 3. Is he out of position? He's pretty far up to the head of that table, isn't he? Boy, when you're playing against a man like
12
Mr.
ball
Crane,
in the corner pocket.
you have to be so careful. No, sir, that's the 3rd time that pocket has hung them up. And he counts 3 for the half inning. And the score at the end of the first half of the 4th inning is Mr. Covington 12, Mr. Crane 3. Mr. Crane at the table with a full complement on, and it is now 12 to 4 on the point.
5 ball.
He doesn't have to go through the rack. All right, it is 12 to 5 on the run of 2. That's a little better situation now. And any sort of a run
2
here
ball.
now can get him ahead.
3
to 6 on the run of 3. Where is he coming? He's all right.
14 ball.
12 to 7 on the run of 4. 4 loose. 8 on the run of 5, and now an open table with, let's see, 3, 6, 7 on the table.
9 ball.
He can play off 5, leave 2.
6.
12 to 9 on the run of 6. He's getting up close.
4 ball.
12 to 10 on the run of 7. Right. 2 more puts him
7
in.
ball. 8 playing for 2 for the
12
inning.
to 11 on the run of 8.
11 ball.
Excuse me. This is a tie game. This is a tie game. Mr. Crane, who has been played some brilliant defensive work, is
6
now
ball in the upper corner pocket.
abreast. Now his last point. Where will he freeze?
Count 10.
Counts 10 for the half inning, and the ball very nearly frozen on the top rail. And the score at the end of 4 even innings of play is now Mr. Crane 13, Mr. Covington 12. Score at the end of 4 even innings of play. Mr. Crane 13, Mr. Covington 12. Mr.
8 ball
Covington
in
at
the
the table
corner pocket.
with 3 on and an open situation. Oh! There is the
Nothing
4th
for Mr.
ball that is hung up in that corner, and he counts nothing for the half inning. The score at the end of the first half of the 5th inning, Mr.
13
Covington
ball.
still 12, Mr. Crane leading with 13. 3 on the table, open situation. Look at the thumb bridge. All right, it is 14 to 12 on the point. Now, which ball to leave as his break shot? Because one of them will have to serve that purpose.
1 ball.
He may, if he moves in there on that 1 ball, move the 8 ball. And he has to have a break
8
shot.
ball in the corner pocket.
Playing the 8 instead in the corner. Isn't that... Oh! That one finally fell. I thought we were going to see the 5th one hang up there But as it is his second point, and it is 15-12 now. And if Mr. Crane can run his full complement of 10 here, he will be hard to catch. Because we're getting to the stage where 10 or more can really look pretty mountainous.
One ball in the upper corner pocket.
He has to get back to that stack.
3.
Here's his point, his third point. It is 16-12.
Safety.
What have we here? Nothing. He'll have to play safety. It's the object ball going. Ooh, is he going to scratch on this? Yes, scratches on it instead. He counts 3. The scratch costs him a point. He counts 2 for the half inning. And the score at the end of 5 even innings of play is Mr. Crane 15, Mr. Covington 12. Mr. Crane with a scratch on him, as you saw. Mr. Covington at the table with practically nothing to shoot
8
at.
balls in the corner pocket. Combination off of the 13 and the 10.
Combination off the 13 and the 10. He's shooting from the head string. The 8 his object. Oh! Beautiful shot. And Mr. Covington has certainly made the shots here tonight, both safeties and also pocketing the balls. He now has a tight situation, but maybe he can find something. It's 15-13.
13 ball in the side pocket.
13 in the side. Watch the cut on this and watch where he'll have to go on the follow. Beautiful. Now let's see how he winds up in that rack. All right, it is 15-14 on the run of 2. But does he have a shot? Gee, if he could just run 10 here, he could be 7 ahead.
5 ball.
This is a tie game. 15 all. 15 all on the run of 3. 7 to go. But somewhere he's going to have to open up that cluster a little, I would think.
15 ball. 4.
16-15. Mr. Covington ahead once again. 16-15.
14 ball.
The run of 4. 17-15. Oh, is he in there too close? On the run of 5. Wow.
12 ball in the side pocket.
Beautiful shot. 18-15. On the run of 6. And if Mr. Covington beats Mr. Crane tonight, it will be only because he has earned it the hard way.
9 ball.
19-15 on the run of 7. 3 to play for. 19-15. He's trying to leave, apparently trying to leave that stack just as closely knit as he can. Look at the way he's leaving that center corner.
10 ball.
10. Wow.
8.
20-15 on the run of 8. 2 to play for. 2 to go. What would you do? Would you play off maybe 1 and then play safe again as he did before?
Four ball in the corner pocket. Combination off of the 6 ball.
Combination 4 off the 6. Gee whiz, this looks like an untenable lie to me. 21, and I think he pocketed another ball on it for his 10th point, which gives him a count of 10 for the half inning and the score at the end of the first half of the 6th inning. Mr. Covington 22, Mr. Crane 15. Mr. Crane with a scratch against him. They play
7
safety
ball.
or shoot out. The 7 ball is point. All right, it has it. 22-16 then. The scratch is removed from the board. He may play anything he wishes now. 22-17 on the run of 2. 22-17. Time's going to be a factor pretty soon
2
here.
ball in the upper corner pocket.
22-18 on the run of 3. And there is his break shot, and it looks like a good line for me. Now, bear in mind that this game must be won in the last half inning, or it reverts to the last complete inning. Mr. Crane can go ahead, but he must give Mr. Covington a minute at least to try to make the shot. All right. There's his run of 4, and it is 22-19. A reasonably open table. It was a good break shot, wasn't it?
Foul ball in the side pocket.
22-20 on the run of 5. Beautiful position. Beautiful position.
7 ball.
On that 7 ball, wasn't it? 22-21. Look at the position on the 15, which will give him a tie on his 7th point if he elects it.
15 ball.
Look at this. Oh, boy, I just would like to be able to shoot them the normal way, wouldn't you? This is a tie game. 22 all on a run of 7. Mr. Crane checking with Mr. Oliver on the count. Now the rack. 22 all. And once again, Mr. Crane is ahead. 23-22 on the run of 8. 2 to play there. 3 minutes left to play. 3 minutes left to play. Playing for 2 for the inning. You'll have no problem giving Mr. Covington time enough. All right. His problem now on his 10th shot, he leads 24-22, is to give Mr. Covington no shot if he can, to shut him out if he can. 24-22, last shot. He must give Mr. Covington at least a minute with which to try to make a shot, or it reverts to the last even inning, in which he was behind.
8 ball in the upper corner pocket.
There is his 10th point. He counts 10 for the half inning. The ball not reaching, as you see, the head rail. There are 2 minutes and 3 seconds left to play. 2 minutes even. 2 minutes even left to play. Mr. Covington, if he can go here, can win. Oh, and missed. And missed, and counts nothing for the half inning. And so the score now. Mr. Oliver, will you move over so I can see that score, please? The score at the end, check, I can't see the scoreboard. Will you gentlemen move over there? All right, the score at the end of the first half of the 7th inning then is Mr. Crane now 25, Mr. Covington 22. Mr. Covington with the miss losing the game. Mr. Crane now shooting to see if he can top Mr. Tozer's 37 for the high game for $1,000. It is 26-22 on the point. He has 3, 5, 7 on the table. He will have to go through the rack. He has 1 minute and 12 seconds left to try to score more than that 37 points. All right, 3 there. It is 28-22 on the run of 3.
5 ball,
If he can run 10, he has the option, remember, of 20 more now in this, the final inning. And the clock shows you 53 seconds left to play.
5.
All right, a run of 5 makes him 30-22 on the run of 5.
4 ball. 6.
31-22 on the run of 6.
7.
32-22 on a run of 7, and Mr. Crane, who has won this game, is playing to see if he can possibly go ahead of Mr. Tozer's 37, which stands high for $1,000 for high game at the end of 13 weeks.
10 ball.
33-22 on the run of 8. He has 16 seconds to try to make 5
4
points.
ball in the upper corner pocket. 9.
34-22 on the run of 9. 5 seconds left. 35-22 on the run of 10. 1 second left. This game is over. He counts 10 for the half inning, and the final score, Mr. Crane 35, Mr. Covington 22. We will be back with the totals and the awards in just 1 minute. The final score, Mr. Crane 35, Mr. Covington 22. Mr. Covington, even in defeat, I thought it was some of the greatest shooting we have seen. Those two safeties and that one shot were amazing. $200 for you. Congratulations, even though you lost. Mr. Willis Covington, let's hear it for him. And now, Mr. Irving Crane, $300. And next week, can you face Jimmy Carroll? Yes, wonderful. We'll see you then. Until then, Joe Wilson, good luck and good shooting, everyone. Good night.
This is 1020, the sensational new pocket billiards game. And here to bring you the action is television's pioneer sportscaster, Joe Wilson.
Hi, friends. Thank you. Hi, friends. How are you? This is 1020. And this is the week we play off the tie that we had the last time you saw these two gentlemen. And I, for one, have waited impatiently for it. Before we bring you our contestants first, however, we have had requests for rule books on our game 1020. The answer is they are available. Send us 25 cents to cover the cost of the book, 10 cents to cover handling and mailing to 1020, Box 3486, the Merchandise Mart Station, Chicago, Illinois. 35 cents to this box number, and the book is yours. Now for our match. First of all, double or nothing tonight, and our defending champion, the man who was tied after winning the first week's match from Decatur, Illinois, Mr. Don Tozer. Don, how are you?
Evening, Joe.
Want to have another go at him?
I'm going to try.
All right. The man who came up from Rockford for his first time on the show and tied Mr. Tozer, and a courageous performance it was, Charles Cacciapaglia. Mr. Cacciapaglia, will you come in?
How are you? Fine, thank you.
And had, I understand, a splitting headache when it was all over, Charlie.
Right.
Well, you fellows remember that you are playing the new television game 1020, so-called, because you are limited to 10 balls in any half inning except the final or eighth inning. There, if you can run 10 points, you have the option of 20 more for a total of 30. You remember that? The winner tonight, double or nothing, gets $600. The loser, $400. In addition, the winner gets $10 a point for every point over 40. And the high game for the 13 weeks, of course, is still $1,000, and that presently is held by Mr. Tozer with the 37 points you see right there. Shoot a perfect game on the air, 100 points, that is worth $5,000, and of course you come back until you are beaten. Are there any questions? One more point, this being television and time being the factor it is. If this game is not won when our regulation time elapses, then the score reverts to the last complete inning. Do you agree to these conditions? All right. Good luck. Good shooting to both of you. Will you step over there under the guidance of our official referee, Mr. Frank Oliver? We'll have the action for you in just one moment. And now the game. Mr. Tozer at the table. Mr. Cacciapaglia won the lag and elected to have Mr. Tozer break. He could have elected to break himself or force Mr. Tozer to make the break. He has elected to force Mr. Tozer to break. He must drive 2 balls to the rail or suffer a scratch. Here's one. And the 7 ball makes it 2. He completes his break successfully, but scratches in doing it. He loses a point, and so Mr. Tozer owes the table 1 point. Mr. Cacciapaglia at the table. The innings now start. He has 15 on the table. He may run 10 before going through the rest. 7 ball, his first point. And makes it. All right. It is 1-0 and gets another ball on the fall, which counts as long as he pocketed his object ball. So it is now 3 to -1 on the run of 3. You must pocket the ball that you call, but if it goes where you indicated it should, Anything that falls subsequently is your point. 4 to -1 on the run of 4. Now, the point. Where is the shot? 8 ball.
8 ball in the left-hand upper corner pocket.
Upper corner pocket. Quite a swing on that ball. I missed it.
Counts 4.
Missed it. Counts 4 for the half inning. And the score at the end of the first half of the first inning. Mr. Cacciapaglia 4, Mr. Tozer -1. Mr. Tozer at the table with 2, 4, 6, 8, 11 on the table. He will not have to go through the rack. And there is his first point. He is even with the table. It is now 4-0 on the point. And they are pretty well opened up, aren't they? Watch him play his draw and follow English. In that case, the follow, it is 4-1 on the run of 2. See how he positioned himself behind the 6 ball. You watch now the English that he uses and see if you can tell if he's going to draw here. Yes, see? All right, 42 on the run of 3.
3 ball.
This is the trick.
In the upper corner
The
pocket.
English used for position. 4-3 on the run of 4. Beautiful long shot, wasn't it? All right. 4-3 on the run of 4. See him determining where he is going to play.
5.
And now it is a tie score at 4-all on his 5th point. He has 5 to go, 6 on the table. He will be playing off the 5 best shots he has, and the 6th one must be the toughest one he can leave Mr. Cacciapaglia.
6.
All right, 6-4. Actually, 5-4 on the run of 6. He is ahead for the first time. 6-4 on the run of 7. See how he drew behind that 8 ball. Isn't that beautiful?
8 ball. 8.
7-4 on the run of 8, playing for 2. Which 2 would you play? Oh, you'll have to follow and come back.
9. Playing for 1.
All right. It is 8-4 on the run of 9. One more, and his half inning is over.
14 ball in the side pocket.
Now, where will he play? Up to the headrail or to the foot spot?
Now 10.
Right there is his run of 10. Is he going to freeze on that foot rail? He almost did. And so the score at the end of one even inning of play is Mr. Tozer 9, Mr. Cacciapaglia 4. And Mr. Cacciapaglia, who must go through the rack in order to break, has a well-nigh impossible situation. 9-4, he's behind, and wait until Mr. Oliver racks those balls and you see what he has facing him. Look at here. Look where his cue ball is, frozen to the foot rail, and there is the rack in between him and the one loose ball he has, the 2 ball. He will probably play safety. No, scratch. In a scratch, all he has to do is move that cue ball. It costs him the half inning, costs him a point. So the score at the end of the first half of the second inning, Mr. Tozer 9, Mr. Cacciapaglia 3. Mr. Tozer at the table may play a safety or a scratch. In a safety, no, he played a scratch too, just moved his cue ball. He loses a half inning and a point. The score at the end of 2 even innings of play, Mr. Tozer 8, Mr. Cacciapaglia 3. Each man with a scratch against him, as you see there. Mr. Cacciapaglia may play a safety or shoot out. In a safety, he must hit an object ball and either drive that ball to the rail or hit an object ball and drive his cue ball to the rail off that object ball. It costs him no point. Now here it is, the safety. See how he does it? He hit the object ball, drove his cue ball to the side rail. It costs him nothing. That half inning, and the score at the end of the first half of the third inning is Mr. Tozer 8, Mr. Cacciapaglia 3. Mr. Cacciapaglia with a safety and scratch against him. Mr. Tozer may play a safety, which he elects to do. Hits his object ball, goes to the rail. He completes it successfully. Costs him the half inning. The score at the end of 3 even innings of this defensive maneuvering is now Mr. Tozer 8, Mr. Cacciapaglia 3. Each man with a safety and scratch against him. If they were to take another safety, it would cost Mr. Cacciapaglia 5. Another scratch now would cost him 6. He must shoot out or suffer that added deficit. And now you see him lining up the shot he thinks he might have in that rack. Can we see that overhead shot and see what he's... There it is. There's his situation. Cue ball frozen to the foot rail. He elects the 6 in the corner. Has to roll it down the side and missed. And so he counts nothing for the half inning. On the score at the end of the first half of the fourth inning, it's Mr. Tozer 8, Mr. Cacciapaglia still 3. Mr. Tozer at the table with a scratch and a safety on him. He, too, must shoot out. Another safety would cost him 5 points. Another scratch would cost him 6. But he has a pretty good setup there
15 ball in the side pocket.
if he can pocket the 15 ball to get started. And he can. All right. And so each man has shot out. Mr. Tozer successfully. The board is wiped clear of safeties and scratches, and Mr. Tozer now has 9-3 on the point, an opportunity to run 10, and there are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 13, or 14 on the table, so he has no problem of going through a rack. Just a problem of finding a shot.
5 ball, bank.
5 ball. Back to the side. Watch this. Is he going to have enough legs to get there? No, sir. Counts 1 for the half inning. And the score at the end of 4 even innings of play is Mr. Tozer 9, Mr. Cacciapaglia 3. The score at the end of 4 even innings of play, Mr. Tozer 9, Mr. Cacciapaglia 3. Mr. Cacciapaglia at the table with neither a safety nor scratch on him. And he is choosing the 9 ball in the side. Pretty fine cut there. And pockets it. All right, for his point. Well, Mr. Cacciapaglia may have his run started, and he can lead by 4 if he can run 10. There is his second point. It is 9-5 on the run of 2, but where did he wind up here as he throws him to that 10 ball? That's an awfully tight cluster. He may have a play on the 6 up at the head of the table, but I don't know. Notice him checking the scoreboard to see where he is. He trails by 4 points, 9-5. He's checking also to see whether Mr. Tozer has a safety or scratch against him, to see if he might have to go to that defensive maneuver again. Once the board is cleared, now he could go into safety and scratch play again without being cost. And there's his scratch. All he has to do is move that cue ball. It costs him a point. That was the point that he made. So the score is now Mr. Tozer 9. Mr. Oliver, will you check the scoreboard? He lost a point on the scratch. Does that leave him now 9-4? 9-4 is the score officially at the end of the first half of the 5th inning. Mr. Tozer at the table, neither a safety nor scratch on him. And is he going to scratch play? Yes, it costs him a point in the score now. At the end of 5 even innings of play is Mr. Tozer 8, Mr. Cacciapaglia 4. Each man with a scratch against him. Mr. Cacciapaglia may play a safety, or he may shoot out if he thinks he has something there. This is a defensive maneuver. They are afraid to open up. He had no shot. They don't want to open the table to their opponent. Here he will play a safety. It will not cost him anything but a half inning, and he does it successfully. It costs him the half inning, and so the score now at the end of the first half of the 6th inning is Mr. Tozer 8, Mr. Cacciapaglia still 4. He has both a safety and scratch against him. He must shoot out the next time at the table. Mr. Tozer can play a safety or shoot out. If he shoots out, he wipes his board clear. It is all important if he can get something started that he shoot out, but he's going to play safety. Off the 11 ball, drives his cue ball to the rail, freezes it very nearly to the foot rail, but not quite. And now it costs him a half inning. The score at the end of 6 even innings of play, Mr. Tozer 8, Mr. Cacciapaglia 4. Each man has a safety and scratch against him. Mr. Cacciapaglia now has to shoot out or suffer 5 points if he takes another safety, 6 for another scratch. And now we're getting down to the short strokes, the 7th inning, where they realize that they've got to set themselves up, if they possibly can, for that 8th inning. ball.
Ball in the
Alex,
corner pocket.
in the corner pocket. Boy, that's going to be some cut if he makes it and misses. And so the score at the end of the first half of the seventh inning is Mr. Tozer 8, Mr. Cacciapaglia still 4. There it is. Mr. Cacciapaglia's board is clear. Mr. Tozer, with a safety and scratch, must shoot out or suffer a deficit. And shoot out he does. Shoot out he does. All right. His board is wiped clear then. It is 9-4 on the point, and he can run 10 here if he can open up that rack. There he is, and does it. All right, it's an open table for him now. It is 10-4 on the run of 2. And this game of cat and mouse now stops, and it's a case of how many can he run. 12 ball for his third point, he hopes.
3.
And there it is. Drops it for 11-4 on the run of 3. He can put himself out in front here by 14 points if he could run 10 going into that 8th inning. Remember, they can each run 30 in the 8th if they can.
10 ball. 5.
All right, it is 13-4 on the run of 5, and there are 7, 9, 11, 12 on the table. He won't have to go through the rack, so he can pick the best shots he has
5 ball.
and leave Mr. Cacciapaglia the least he can leave him. All right, 14-4 on the run of 6. 4 more to play off. Which 4 would you take, you players? There's your setup. 14-4. 15-4 on the run of 7. And look at the follow, but is he coming too far?
6 ball.
6 ball.
8 playing for 2.
16-4 on the run of 8, playing for 2. Now, you're going to take these 2 at the foot of the table and leave those 2 up around the head spot for Mr. Cacciapaglia. This takes a little consideration by Mr. Tozer. Tozer is going to play them off. 17-4 on the run of 9. 1 more point. Where does he put him?
3 ball.
He's got to shut him out if he can. 18-4 on the full run of 10. And there you have it. And he throws him almost right against the foot rail. And the score at the end of 7 even innings of play, Mr. Tozer 18, Mr. Cacciapaglia 4. Mr. Cacciapaglia in the 8th and final inning. This is his last go-round. He must run 10 to have the option of 20 more. And he has to break. Oh, and missed. And so there is the end of the half inning for Mr. Cacciapaglia and the game. The score at the end of the first half of the 8th inning, Mr. Tozer 18, Mr. Cacciapaglia 4. Mr. Tozer at the table with an opportunity. He has won with the opportunity to run 48 points here and get into bonus money if he can pocket his point and leave himself anything with which to open up. Has he come too far? He's ahead 19-4. This is the 8th inning. If he can run 10, he has the option of 20 more. 30 points here would give him 48 points total. 8 over his 40, $80 in bonus money. But he must pocket this and open it up. A bank shot on his opening shot. No, sir. No, sir. And misses. And so he counts 1 for the 8th and final inning, and the final score is Mr. Tozer 19, Mr. Cacciapaglia 4. We'll be back with the totals and the awards in just 1 moment. Well, there you have it, and what a variety of scores we have had. Mr. Tozer defeating Mr. Deal in the first game, the first match, if you recall, 37-17. That is still high for the $1,000 at the end of 13 weeks. We have now gone through 3 weeks. Last week we had the thrilling 13-13 tie where Mr. Cacciapaglia just pulled himself literally up off the floor to go into that tie. And now Mr. Tozer, your defending champion, has won for the 3rd time in this series by the count that you see here. 19-4, and he will go into next week's match as your still defending champion. I thought Mr. Cacciapaglia played brilliantly, and I think we should certainly, even though he lost, welcome out The loser, Mr. Charles Cachapal. Your check will you come out. There's just one trouble with safety and scratch play. The fellow who starts it usually
I got mixed up on it.
winds up having to break out of it, and almost without fail, you wind up literally behind the 8 ball if you go into it first, don't you?
That's right.
It's a tricky game to know when to play it and when not, isn't it?
I thought I had him on the double safety there, but then I was mistaken.
Well, I think you've done a marvelous job in 2 weeks, and we would like to give you, to salve your wounds a little bit, $400 for your end of the double or nothing. You get the loser's end for last week and again this week. Charlie, it was wonderful to have you.
Thank you, Joe. It's nice being here.
Let's hear it for Charles Cachapal. Well, this fellow is getting to be a fixture, isn't he? He's certainly taken the measure of Rockford, but we're going to make it a little tougher possibly for him. At least we're going to give him a new locale next week. But first of all, let's dwell on his triumph right here tonight. Mr. Don Tozer. Don. Well, it helps, doesn't it?
That's right.
What is it the fellow says? I'd rather be lucky than president or wonderful or smart, I guess. Well, Don, for your end, $600, $300 for last week, $300 for this week, and the privilege of coming back again. Will you be able to return next week?
I hope so.
We would very much like to have you.
Thank you, Joe.
Let's hear it for Don Tozer. Next week, Mr. Tozer will face a very formidable opponent. From Rochester, New York, 3-time champion of the world in 14-1 continuous championship pocket billiards, Irving Crane, champion in 1942, again in 1946, and most recently in 1955. We certainly hope that you will watch for that match. We have a little time left, 4 minutes. We would like now, because we do have some time, to explain the safety and scratch play for you. Let me first explain why safety and scratch. Safety and scratch play are a defensive device. The player resorts to this play when he has nothing on the table that constitutes a good shot. And as a result, he resorts to this play because he doesn't want to open up the table for his opponent. Anytime he attempts to make a shot there, he automatically opens it up, may leave his opponent a shot. So, the easiest shot for him to play, even though it costs him a point, is a scratch. All he has to do is move the ball. Will you demonstrate it, Frank, please?
One scratch is cue ball going in any pocket. You lose 1 point. Or failure to drive an object ball to the rail. You lose 1 point. Or failure to go to the rail after touching an object ball with the cue ball.
Or, as was the case here tonight, simply moving the cue ball itself. Will you demonstrate that? As you see, he didn't disturb that rack at all. This cost him a point. He may have one of these at a cost of only 1 point. The next most dangerous maneuver, and usually taken second, as you saw it here, because it is more dangerous and more apt to open up the table, is the safety. On a safety, you may drive an object ball to a rail, as here, or you may strike an object ball and drive your cue ball to the rail off that object ball, as he did there. That costs you nothing. But as you see, it opened up the cluster slightly. Your opponent might have a play here, and that is why this is the second most desirable shot to take. Now, you have a scratch. It's cost you 1 point and a half inning. You have a safety. It has cost you nothing and a half inning. We can't have the players doing this forever, so now you come to the table. If you take another scratch, it costs you 6 points. If you take another safety, it costs you 5 points. So now your option is to attempt to shoot out if at all possible. That, I think, will make you understand safety and scratch. Once the player attempts legitimately to pocket a ball, his board is wiped clear, and then he either scores, misses, or may go into safety and scratch play in subsequent appearances at the table. 1 minute, Frank, will you demonstrate just the basic fundamentals of bridge and stance here for our viewers?
Stance. You hold the cue 12 to 14 inches from the base, according to what's most comfortable to you. Hold it alongside of you. Take one step forward. You'll notice you automatically go into the bridge. You're holding the cue about 6 inches from the tip. Now you notice your bridge. This is your natural bridge. If you want to draw, you come down. If you want to follow, you come up. You notice you have a solid, your hand is very solid down on the table.
Frank, will you show where you aim on the object ball?
In pocket billiards, you use the center ball about 95% of the time. You do not use English unless absolutely necessary. You aim at the object ball in the same position as you would hit it. In the center spot, if you were driving it in with your cue, come back with your cue ball and strike it in the spot where you would hit it with the cue ball. Pocket the ball.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oliver. That is it for tonight. Next week, as we told you, Mr. Tozer returns for his 4th time facing the 3-time world champion Irving Crane. We hope you'll be there. Till then, Joe Wilson saying good luck and good shooting, everyone. Good night.
Is 1020, the sensational new pocket billiards game. And here to bring you the action is television's pioneer sportscaster, Joe Wilson.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, friends. How are you? Welcome once again to the saga of Mr. Joe Deal, as our program has been renamed from 1020, because this venerable gentleman now goes into his 6th week unbeaten, winner of $1,500. Here he is from Rockford, Illinois, Mr. Joe Deal. How are you? Good to see you again.
Good to see you, too.
His opponent, we have told you about the sensational young bloods, the 4 C's of the 1951 World Tournament. Here is another of them for you from Waterville, New York, Mr. Joe Canton. Will you step in, please? How are you? Thank you. Good to see you. Come in here just a little closer and just play to my shoulder. That's fine. Now, you understand, of course, Mr. Canton, that you and Mr. Deal are going to play 1020, the new pocket billiards game devised for television and so called because you are limited to a run of 10 balls in any half inning except the 8th, the final inning. There, if you can run 10, you have the option of 20 more for a total of 30. That's clear. Winner gets $300, the loser $200. Also, the winner gets a bonus arrangement of $10 a point for every point over 40. High game at the end of these 13 weeks, and this is the 12th, so somebody had better win it pretty soon, or it goes by default to Mr. Jimmy Moore with his 44 points, and if nobody takes it away from him, he wins $1,000 for holding it. Perfect game of 100 points on the air is worth $5,000, and if you win, you come back to defend in our final show, the 13th program. Because this is television with the time factor involved in it, the game is not ended or won. At the end of regulation time, the score reverts to the last completed inning. You understand that? Do you agree to play under that condition?
Yes, I do.
Fine. You, Mr. Deal?
Yes, sir.
As if we should ask. All right, if there are no further questions, will you gentlemen step over there under the direction of our official referee, Mr. Oliver? We will have the action for you in just a minute, but first of all, the word about our books. The ABCs of billiards here, 15 cents. The 1020 rule book there, 35 cents to cover books, mailing, and handling. If you would like either or both, 15 cents, 35 cents, or 50 cents, send your money to the Billiard and Bowling Institute of America at 716 North Rush Street in Chicago, Illinois, and the books will be yours. Now, for the action in just 1 minute. Now the game. Mr. Canton, the winner of the leg, is forcing Mr. Deal to break. He must drive the 2 balls to the rail, which he does. They come back pretty well, although he leaves one open.
Safety complete.
And he did not scratch, as you see, and so the safety is completed successfully. Mr. Canton at the table with 15 on the table, 10 of which he may run. And Mr. Deal, as you can see, left him a shot on the 5 ball, or possibly he is lining up there on the 7 ball. Whichever he elects. 5 ball it is.
Corner pocket.
Long, difficult shot. Shooting off the corner, see? Oh, good shot. Good shot. I don't know how well, but he positioned himself for the next one here, but he popped that one in.
10 ball in the corner pocket, combination off of the 3 ball.
10, combination off the 3.
Kiss off of the 12 ball.
And you'll have to kiss it off the 12. Boy, this'll be a good one if he makes it. See, I couldn't see. Yes. All right. So it is 2-0 on the run of 2. Mr. Canton with a little better situation now.
4 ball in the corner pocket.
Opened up here. Mr. Deal may start out behind this week.
3.
All right, a good shot, wasn't it? 3-0 on the run of 3. Now Mr. Canton
3 ball.
sort of has it going his way. 4-0 on the run of 4. A matter of playing position now. On the 10 of the 15, he will
ball.
shoot off. 5-0 on the run of 5.
13 ball in the corner pocket.
Play on the 7 there if he wants to. He's counting to see how many strays he has left.
7 ball in the side pocket. 6.
6-0 on the run of 6. See, he has 4 loose there. And of course, the problem now is to leave Mr. Deal just as safe as he can. 7-0 on the run of 7. Apparently he's figuring that 6 ball is being frozen on the rail, and one that he can leave.
8 ball in the corner pocket. 8.
All right, 8-0 on the run of 8.
15 ball in the upper left-hand corner pocket.
And missed. So, counts 8 for the half inning. The score at the end of the first half inning. Mr. Canton, 8. Mr. Deal at the table. Mr. Deal with 4-7 on. He will have to go through the rack if he runs his full complement of 10.
2 ball in the lower right-hand corner pocket.
Oh, missed it.
Count nothing for
Opened
Mr.
up
Deal.
the table in so doing. And the score at the end of 1 even inning of play. Mr. Canton, 8. Mr. Deal, nothing. Mr. Canton at the table with those
12
self-same
ball in the side pocket.
7 on.
1.
All right, it is 9-0 on the point.
13 ball.
And he can play them off any way he wants, just so he leaves a break shot.
2.
All right, 10-0 on the run of 2.
11 ball.
He might even elect not to break.
3.
11-0 on the run of 3. In other words, just run 7 and play safe.
9 ball in the side pocket. 4.
All right, 12-0 on the run of 4. Quick moving little fellow, isn't he? That 51 tournament was a great one. Some great new players came
2
in,
ball.
3 of whom you have seen.
5.
All right, 13-0 on the run of 5. This gentleman,
15 ball in the corner pocket. In the side pocket.
Mr. Cachapagna.
6.
All right, it is 14-0, and he is going to go into that rack. He's going to open it up and get every point he possibly can. Mr. Oliver's brother Nick, whom you saw in an earlier appearance here was another one of those. And they were all dandies. Mr. Vern Peterson
6 ball.
was
In the
another
lower
one.
left-hand corner pocket.
Now he'll have to break off this. Bear in mind that this opens it up for Mr. Deal. Oh! Missed.
Count
And
6.
missed. He counts 6 for the half inning. The score at the end of the first half of the second inning. Mr. Canton, 14. Mr. Deal, nothing. Mr. Deal at the table
14 ball in the corner pocket.
with 15 on, 10 of which he may run. And an open
One.
table at which to shoot, and it's 14-1 on his first point. And Mr. Deal could come within 4 here. He is not shut out by any matter of means. But he is playing a little different strategy from the
6
past
ball.
weeks where he was always ahead.
2.
All right, 14-2 on the run of 2. Mr.
8
Canton.
ball. 3.
14-3 on the run of 3. I'm just wondering whether or
2
not
ball.
he's upset by that miss.
4.
14-4 on the run of 4. These newcomers to this game have been impressed with the fact that a mistake can cost you so dearly.
7 ball.
Oh, boy.
4
Missed
for
it.
Mr. Deal.
All right, he counts 4 for the half inning and the score at the end of 2 even innings of play. Mr. Canton, 14. Mr. Deal, 4.
1 ball in the
Canton
corner
at the
pocket.
table with a 10-point lead, which he can make
One.
a 20-point lead. It is now 15-4. There are enough on, so he will not have to go through the rack. 15-4 on the point.
13 ball. 2.
All right, 16-4 on the run of 2.
4 ball. Playing the 10 ball.
10 ball instead.
3.
17-4 on the run of 3. Notice how
ball.
fast he shoots off now, or he
4.
doesn't have to worry about playing safe
7 ball.
with only 11 on. His
5.
job is just to play position and run the table. 19-4 on the run of 5.
12 ball.
20-4 on the run of 6. Boy, he's a good little maneuverer, isn't he? And Mr. Deal is kind of realizing that that
5
miss
ball.
may have been the game. It's a long way yet. But,
7.
all right, it's 21-4 on the run of 7. Boy, that's a big lead.
7. Count.
Asking the count, which is 7.
11 ball in the corner pocket. 8. playing for 2 for the inning.
22-4 on the run of 8, playing for 2.
4 ball. 9. Playing
3-4
for 1.
on the run of 9, playing for 1. Where will he put Mr. Deal? To the head
9
rail?
ball.
I think that ball is out of the rack. The 15 ball, which is left there.
Count 10 for Mr. Canton.
And the new, listen, came within an inch of staying on the head rail. Runs 10 for the half inning, and the score at the end of the first half of the third inning. Mr. Canton now 24, Mr. Deal 4. Mr. Deal trailing by 20 points at the table. Very nearly frozen to the head rail, and the 15 ball, his break shot, and a rack
Safety.
right next to it.
15 ball. in
And
the
he's
corner
going to
pocket.
play the 15. He'll open that rack. If he misses, and miss he did. Yes, he did. He counts nothing for the half inning and the score at the end of 3 even innings of play. Mr. Canton, 24. Mr. Deal, 4. Mr. Canton at the table with a 20-point lead,
6 ball
calling for the
in
bridge,
the corner pocket.
and a chance to run 10 of the 15 on here again, which would give him a lead then of 30 points. Bear in mind that the most points you can make in the 8th inning are 30. If you can run the first 10. If he gets over 30 ahead, Mr. Deal is practically shut out. Oh, beautiful shot. Wasn't that a beautiful shot? Mr. Canton is showing us some maneuvering here
8 ball in the corner
this
pocket.
week. 25-4 on the point. 26-4 on the run of 2, but wait a
14 ball in
minute.
the
Did
corner
he
pocket.
get caught in here? is he trapped. That's the cue ball right below the 4 ball there. He sure isn't trapped. He certainly isn't. It is 27-4 on the run of 3.
11 ball. 4.
28-4 on the run of 4. Running around that table as though there were a race on, isn't he?
5.
29-4 on the run of 5.
10 ball.
30-4 on the run of 6. He was asking Mr. Oliver in practice sessions for this game if this wasn't a game that should be played fast so you could get into that bonus money. 31-4 on the run of 7. Obviously, he's figuring more on than just a win. 32-4 on the run of 8, playing for 2. And that is a pretty tightly grouped cluster there if he elects the 2 and the 7 ball, isn't it?
7 ball in the side pocket.
Mr. Deal, he is really in trouble, and he knows it.
9.
All right, it is 33-4 on the run of 9, last point.
2 ball.
Now, where's he going to put him?
Count
Going
10.
to the head rail. Let's see how well he comes. He misses by about 2 inches. Counts another 10-inning and at the end of the first half of the 4th inning, it is Mr. Canton 34, Mr. Deal 4. Mr. Deal trailing by 30 points now. And pretty well locked up again. Mr. Canton, for never having played this game before except in the rehearsals and his own practice sessions in preparing for it, has certainly shown us a new wrinkle on it, hasn't he? His philosophy, get out and run just as fast as you can and as many as you can. And Mr. Deal, who has been playing a cat and mouse game by getting ahead and then holding his opponents and leaving them nothing to shoot, is suddenly trapped in a
13
web
ball in the corner
of,
pocket combination off of the 9 and 4 balls.
wow, 3-way combination. Missed. Counts nothing for the half inning and the score at the end of 4 even innings of play. Mr. Canton, 34. Mr. Deal, 4. Score at the end of 4 even innings of play, one of the greatest margins we have had in my memory. Mr. Canton leading by 30 points with 34 to Mr. Deal's 4. 4 more innings to play. Mr. Canton with 5 on. He must go through the rack here. Beautiful shot. He now leads by 31, 35.
Even that wild wolf yell.
Now,
9 ball in the corner pocket.
if he maintained this margin, Mr. Deal is shut out at the end of 4 innings.
2.
All right, it is 36-4 on the run of 2. Sort of had that pretty well plotted, calling the ball even before the cue ball stopped. And apparently he's going to stick with his planned strategy. All right, it is 37-4 on the run of 3. And the 3 ball apparently will be his break shot.
Corner pocket.
Gee, how's he going to get there? Well, he did, didn't he? All right, he did. He's coming too far. He may have come too far for a break shot there. See the line Mr. Oliver uses to outline the rack. This is penciled in, and as a result of the ball being in the rack, the cue ball, is in hand, which means that Mr. Canton may now spot it anywhere he wishes above the head string, which is an imaginary line drawn between the 2 dots down from the head rail. And here we will have to have, I think it's going to be our first safety. I don't remember having one before. And then an object ball and go to the rail off that object ball or drive that object ball to the rail. There's always the potential of opening up here to your opponent. He may take a safety without penalty to himself. He's asking what the penalty is, and the penalty for the first safety is nothing. A scratch costs 1. And there goes his ball to the rail. I don't know how good a safety this is, however, because he opened up that 3 ball, and Mr. Deal may be able to break off it. The score at the end of the first half of the 5th inning, Mr. Canton 38, Mr. Deal 4. Mr. Canton with a safety against him.
3 ball in the corner pocket.
Mr. Deal an open board, playing off that 3 ball.
Nothing
Missed.
for Mr. Deal.
Missed. And so he counts nothing for the half inning in the score at the end of 5 even innings of play. Mr. Canton 38, Mr. Deal still 4. Mr. Canton with a safety against him. Mr. Deal with an open board. Mr. Canton may elect a scratch. Another safety would cost him 5, or he may shoot out and clear his board. 3 ball is punt. But how do you get back to the rack? He missed, and he opened up. He may have opened up to Mr. Deal now. He counts nothing for the half inning. The score at the end of the first half of the 6th, Mr. Canton 38, Mr. Deal 4. Neither man now with a safety or scratch. Mr. Deal may elect a safety or a scratch, or he may try to run 10, which would bring him, in this case, within 24 points. And he would no longer be shut out. If he could get within 24 here, with still 7th and 8th innings to go, he would be in good shape. This is a long, tough shot. And well made. But he's in tough position still. All right, 38-5 on the point.
5 ball in the lower left-hand corner pocket.
Another long one. Oh, and has it. All right, he's in much better position now. 38-6 on the run of 2. Now, if he can open up that
1
rack
ball
a
in the
little
corner
bit,
pocket.
he can run off the 10. All right, there's the 3rd point. 38-7 on the run of 3.
9 ball.
38-8 on the run of 4.
10 ball in the side pocket.
38-9 on the run of 5. He's going to have to work
ball.
as fast as he can here, because time may be a factor pretty soon.
6.
38-10 on the run of 6. Mr. Canton has been shooting fast, so maybe there is time enough.
6 ball. 2 ball in the side pocket.
38-11 on the run of 7. Playing for 3 more.
6 ball.
Leave that rack as tight as he can.
8.
All right, 38-12 on the run of 8. He's within 26
3
now.
minutes.
3 minutes left to play.
There are 3 minutes left to play. Start the clock.
All right, if this game is not won at the end of regulation time, the score reverts to the last even inning, last completed inning. And that was the 5th in which Mr. Deal trailed 38-4.
8 ball in the corner pocket.
So he needs time, and a lot of it. All right.
10 for Mr.
All right, he counts 10 for the half inning, and a good safety is playing. And the score at the end of 6 even innings of play, Mr. Canton 38, Mr. Deal 14. Mr. Canton with a 26-point lead, playing the 15 combination
Little ball in the corner pocket combination off of the 14.
off the 14 with 2 minutes 20 seconds.
Wow.
A double kiss, and he made it. And now he has an open table.
14 ball.
He has it won, but apparently he's going for that
7 ball. 2.
bonus money. He is now within a point of it, 40-14 on the run of 2. He had just earned $10 of bonus money, 41-14, and if he doesn't lose, he doesn't miss here, he is in excellent shape. He is now 42-14. He has earned $20 in bonus money, and his lead is within 2 points of again shutting out Mr. Deal.
12 ball.
Nothing better than a tie. No, and he opened him up. All right. It is 43-14. He didn't scratch on the run of 5 with 1 minute now and 22 seconds left. This is a toughie. And has it. All right. And it is now 44-14 on the run of 6. Mr. Deal will apparently have time in his half inning And it is 35, or rather 45 to 14 on the run of 7. 3 more to play off with 60 seconds left to play. All right, bear in mind that Mr. Deal will have time to come into his half inning, and even if the score reverted to the last completed inning, he was beaten 38 to 14.
9 ball.
All right, playing for 1 more.
Count 10.
It's 10 for the half inning, and the score at the end of the first half of the 7th inning. Mr. Kenton, 48, Mr. Deal, 14, with 33 seconds left to play. And Mr. Deal is beaten. He has made a point. It's just a question of how many he can make here. With now 23 seconds left to play, 48 to 15.
3 balls.
And in all the excitement, I have lost. And missed. He counts 1 for the half inning, and the score at the end of 7 even innings of play. Mr. Kenton, 48. Mr. Deal, 15. There are 6 seconds left to play. 5, 4. He can make as many as he can get. 1. And he makes 1 point. He was shooting and that is the end of the game. And the final score, Mr. Kenton, 49. Mr. Deal, 15. We'll be back with the totals and the awards in just 1 minute. The final score, a new high. Mr. Kenton, 49. Mr. Deal, 15. And so, we ended at 6. How much does that make total for you? $1,700 for those 6 weeks, isn't it? Counting this $200, Mr. Deal, it was a wonderful thrill. You played brilliantly even in losing. Mr. Joe Deal, how about it? Now, Mr. Joe Kenton, $390 for your end. Will you defend next week?
I certainly
Fine,
shall,
we'll
sir.
look for you then. Mr. Joe Kenton, who next week will defend against the man who held the $1,000 until this week, Mr. Jimmy Moore. Till then, Joe Wilson, good luck and good shooting, everyone.